Sounds like drums. Let me in. Where are they coming from? From hell? Hello, huge movie fanatic Nate, coming at you. Having just reviewed, or the last movie I reviewed on this channel was The Slayer, and being a former sufferer very heavily of OCD, and still probably having a titch of it now. I thought it was only made sense to review, to have the video that followed up the review of The Slayer be, of course, Scalps, because back in the 80s, although this is, cut down for this white clamshell, one of probably the most popular releases on VHS was the original Continental Video double feature of The Slayer and Scalps, and this is, as I spoke about in my review of the Slayer, the VHS that I saw both these movies on for the very first time. And then I since got this, of course, which is the Retro Media DVD that came out in whatever, it says it's the 20th anniversary, so maybe this came out in, I don't know, 03, 04, something like that. But I know this is on Blu-ray, but I don't know. I don't know if I can. I don't know if I can justify paying more money for Scalps yet again. So I just rewatched this DVD within the last several days, and oh my gosh, I mean, I always knew that, it should be said that, back when I was 14, I mentioned this in my Slayer review, but if you haven't seen my review of the absolutely fantastic early 80s horror movie by the name of The Slayer, feel free to check it out. But if you haven't seen that review, I mentioned that when I was 14, I rented this double feature, and I watched the movies back to back, at night, and it was kind of, The Slayer creeped me out. So by the time The Slayer was over, The Scalps, it was deep into the night, and having been kind of creeped out by The Slayer, I was in a kind of a vulnerable, being 14 and getting into horror and stuff, I was in a kind of vulnerable position to watch Scalps. So, then I would imagine some of Scalps is cut down for this. I can't remember. I haven't seen the Continental VHS forever, but I would imagine they cut some of Scalps out just as they cut some of The Slayer out. I mean, you could definitely cut a lot out of Scalps without missing anything, like the driving in the desert shit and stuff. But it should be noted that, by the time, as I was saying, by the time I got to Scalps, I was definitely vulnerable and whatever, and I was probably at 14 very aware of how much kind of just, I don't know, grisly or just amateurish filmmaking, having just watched, and it's a good thing that in my opinion, obviously the best movie on the Continental double feature is The Slayer. I mean, obviously I would imagine anyone would agree with that. If you don't, I mean, I'm not gonna, that's your right or whatever. But so, being 14 and having watched The Slayer, which was pretty good, it's hard to kind of see in this video version though. I was very much aware of how, like, just, no budget and just kind of amateurish Scalps was in comparison. And it starts with this, having just rewatched the DVD, within the last several days, it starts with this, it's very, very sloppy, just movie making basically, where the first part of the movie is just music and kind of just, that's it. There's like this shot of the scene of this old guy driving into the desert to dig for bones or whatever, and it's just basically music with, no sound of the car or the truck driving, and the only thing you kind of hear is like, the truck door shutting and this kind of stuff. So right off the bat, this movie starts with a very low budget feel, and it has been said, and it even says kind of on the back of the DVD, it has been said by other people as well, that this movie has this kind of overall sense of dread, or just a really creepiness to it. And I will give it that. It's basically the music. If the music, you basically credit that, feeling of just dread or just overall uncomfortableness just to the music. The music, I think, is probably the best achievement about this movie, because the music is actually kind of cool. So the movie begins with this old guy, going out to the desert to just, I don't know, he just comes to the desert and parks his truck and walks a bit with a shovel and just starts digging or whatever. One thing that's kind of cool in this movie that's kind of creepy is this, basically this Indian ghost head is kind of like an Exorcist ripoff, where every now and then it'll appear like over, exposed over something. There'll be a picture of something, and then like this Indian head with these kind of just, possessed looking lit up eyes just looks like will just appear over something, meaning kind of the Indian spirit presence is there or whatever. So when this guy's digging up, I mean, he digs up something just for a few moments, and then he picks up something, and he's just like, they show a shot of it, and it's just like, and that's really a creepy face, and you know, whenever that happens in the movie, that's really kind of creepy. And then what's kind of cool is like you just got this music playing, just foreboding, just, you know, whatever scary, creepy music playing this whole time, and then this guy's knife gets kind of her hand gets possessed, and he's like, and he kind of slits his own throat, and it's just really kind of, I mean, it's like gay and, you know, low budget and just amateurish and pathetic, but it kind of gets to you in the same. Somehow it actually kind of gets to you, and I guess like I say before, it's just like, you know, mainly the music that accomplishes that feat. But then we open with Scalps or whatever, you know, the title, which is fantastic. You know, the kind of the whatever you want to call it, the font or the way Scalp, the title is actually shown, which I don't know why the hell for this DVD release, which is actually released by Fred Olden Ray's, you know, outfit, Retro Media. I don't know why. So obviously it was in control of the cover art, or the release. I don't know why he didn't use that classic Scalps kind of font or whatever on the disc instead of this boring thing or whatever. But this movie is basically about just, I don't know, college kids or something going out in the desert and digging up, you know, Indian, you know, basically, you know, breaking the law and what's that called when you... Oh, desecrating like Indian burial ground and digging up Indian bones. Or I don't know if what they're looking for. Probably just I don't know what exactly, if they're looking for Indian stuff or what. But that's the premise of this movie. You know, very much just, you know, you got your camera and some film stock, but you don't have enough money to get permits. What can we do? Well, we go out in the desert, and no one, you know, should bother us. We'll just make a horror movie out in the desert or whatever. Should be noted on a side note that this movie features some cameos from this guy who had played Superman in, I think, if not one for sure, but possibly two, you know, Saturday afternoon cliffhanger serials back in the, I don't know if it was probably the 50s or something like that. I've actually got, I think it's two of them. I think he starred in two separate serials. Cliffhanger serials, and I've actually got both of them, I think. So that's kind of this movie's big, you know, like, ooh, this guy who played Superman in the old days, and some cliffhanger serials is in this. And then there's this older woman who I think she's something. She was a has-been too, but I don't know exactly who this woman is. But the Superman plays like the professor or whatever, so he's briefly shown at the beginning of the movie sending the kids out into the desert. He's like, you know, don't dig up, you know, I don't know, don't dig up Indian burial grounds, that's a no-no or whatever. And then we see him at the very end. So this movie is really, really, you know, it's kind of, I don't know, I think it's just like 80 minutes or something long or something, and it's really like starts off almost unbearable, like kind of just the driving out to the desert is just like, driving's a little long. But again, you know, the thing that kind of makes the scene passable is just the creepy music, which really, you know, I can't stress it enough that even though this movie is just kind of overall stupid and just, you know, amateurish and just crap, the music, you know, there is this just kind of throughout the whole movie, when they're out going out in the desert and stuff, it does have this overall just feeling of whatever, I guess the word the dread is used on the back of the DVD case, and so it does accomplish that. But once again, displaying my OCD, that should be pretty much credited to the guys or the guy or whoever did the music or whatever. So you got, you know, some basically it's the same old story where I think you got two couples, you know, two guys, two girls, and then, oh no, you got six, you know, three guys and three girls, and two of them are couples, and then you got this goofy girl who's like DJ, is that his name? I don't think it's BJ, DJ, forgive me if I get these letters mixed up. I think it's DJ and this goofy guy with a beard. They're not, you know, they're kind of just loners, they're not going out. But the girl who's with, well, both the girls, they're paired up in couples, are pretty attractive. But that blonde or whatever, with the guy with the beard, man, she's really pretty hot. And the other girl's not, you know, anything to thumb your nose at either. But, and I think it should be noted that as far as casting goes, I think it's done relatively well. I think all the characters are reasonably likable, and you got this kind of jock guy who would end up being, of course, the possessed guy, the shirtless guy. I thought that look was so ridiculous. The shirtless guy with the jeans with this Indian weapon and this just goofy face. It's just so low budget, just schlock crap. It's just awesome. It just looks so wrong. Like, it's just everything's wrong. Tennis shoes, jeans, no shirt, and an Indian weapon, and just this goofy looking face. And I think he's got some like scratches on his chest. And it's just like such a just what the fuck kind of a look for a horror movie, kind of killer. It's just ridiculous. So this jock guy ends up later on being possessed, and he becomes kind of the physical embodiment of the basically the Indian spirits or whatever that possess this guy. It should be noted, I think I was actually getting onto this and then I forgot. I was getting sidetracked. I was going to comment on the woman or the girl that got to play DJ, which I thought was actually pretty great casting. She's kind of the character of this DJ, is kind of supposed to be just an out there kind of a character who's like, she wants to go on this thing to dig up Indian bones, but then when she gets there, she's like, I don't think we should be doing this. It's just ridiculous. And but it should be noted that I think the girl that they got to play that character was dead on perfect for the part, and she's got this kind of weird, face, which is kind of attractive and kind of geekish at the same time. And I just think that she does a really good job at just kind of playing this, whatever you want to call her, just a goofy girl or whatever, this girl who others would, regard as being off, a little bit off or whatever. So that's pretty much it. I mean, you go out into the desert and just kind of endure some excruciating whatever scenes and dialogue and shit. And it is pretty excruciating. They set up camp or whatever, and it seems like it's just night after night after night. Like, I don't know how many days they actually spend out there before they actually start dying off. But the movie is basically absolutely kind of pathetic. When one of the things that once the killings start happening, they really take you by surprise, because there's so many times in movies past, like no budget movies, they'll surprise you because they'll be so. This might be one of the better examples of it, where the movie just plays like, up until the point where the kills start happening so ridiculously, so it kind of puts you at ease to basically lulls you into the sense of security, not to expect anything. Like on the gore, you just figure by the way this movie starts and is going on that they're just not going to show anything because they've got no budget to show anything. But when they actually when that possessed jock guy or whatever takes his girlfriend out for a moonlight stroll in the desert or whatever, and proceeds to, it's really kind of an uncomfortable scene. It's like proceeds to rape her in a way that's not, it's subdued. It's not like all I spit on your grave kind of nastiness. It's subdued and stuff, but I mean that, it's still rape. Even if it's subdued, just seeing any kind of rape on screen or in general or whatever is always unsettling, or well, like maybe one could say it should be to the viewer. But so this possessed jock guy who's possessed by Indian spirit or whatever rapes his girlfriend, and then he proceeds to, and what I would regard as, in any movie, one of the best, just most disturbing throat-slitting scenes in any horror movie that I've ever seen. And I'm not saying the best or the most disturbing, but it's up there, definitely one of the best and one of the most disturbing throat-slitting scenes. After he has his way with her, he slits her throat, and it's just, oh my god, it is just, you completely don't expect an effect this good in this movie at this point, and it's just like they just hold on it, and she's like, oh, and the blood like splurts. One of the things that's just nasty is the blood splurts out of her neck onto her face, and it's just like, oh my god. So it's kind of a 1, 2, 3 punch in a way. First, she has to get raped, and then her throat gets slit, and then if that's not enough, he proceeds to, obviously, the movie's called Scalps, he proceeds to scalp her, and just like the neck, the slitting of the neck effect, that is just like, oh my god, it looks so fucking real, the scalping of her. And it's just, by the time, I remember being 14, and it's late at night at this point, and I'm like, oh my god. With the music, with the movie's kind of Indian music or whatever, it kind of lulls you into this trance, and by this time I'm just like, oh my god, you don't even, at this point you're like, is this real? Like, is this a snuff movie because the way the movie plays up until this point, you don't think that it would have the technical ability to do a visual, gore effects this good, which are like top of the line gore effects, which you don't even see in just the most expensive A movies. So that is just, oh my gosh. So the one plus this movie has is the kills, and I might even add that they might even be a little too extreme, actually, or for my taste, and particularly that one where it's rape, slit, and then scalp. It's just like, oh my gosh. And later on, I can't remember how other people, that's kind of like the standout kind of kill or whatever. And other people kind of get dispatched, I guess, in a creepy ways too, like that one guy, the guy with the beard who's going out with the blonde or whatever. Kind of cool how he's sitting in the back of the truck and the guy in the possessed jock and the jeans and the no shirt and the gnarly looking face comes up and takes this, I don't know if this Indian weapon with like a stick with a rock tied in the middle of it, or if it's supposed to be a tomahawk or whatever, and like goes towards the back of his head, and they actually pull out some. You can actually see like the back of his head, like hair or something like that, fly off too, like in some slow motion. It's just like, and then it's just like blood starts pouring out of his mouth, and he kind of. That one's a little more laughable because why would blood pour out of your mouth after you got the back of your head scalped? But it should be noted that even if the kills are kind of laughable, like after that really nasty one, which isn't laughable at all, it's just kind of disturbing. It's just they got that foreboding music playing during them, and it's just like they're effective, So this movie is absolutely ridiculous. I should wrap this review up. Obviously, it starts with. I should mention at the beginning of the movie, it kind of starts with one of the probably the more infamous kills, which is the decapitation of that goofy guy who's kind of not, the single goofy guy who's kind of paired up unofficially with DJ or whatever. DJ being possessed at the very end of the movie, takes a shovel and cuts his head off, and then of course he's like the famous, headless corpse spurting blood, with the hands twitching looking for its head or whatever. That scene, it's Fred Olen Ray said the distributor or whatever recut this movie, because I was going to mention that, because that kill is like shown at the very beginning of the movie before anything else happens. And then there's this goofy, towards the beginning in the middle of the movie, this goofy stupid lion head that's just like, and it's got this one lip that's like, it's like animatronic head. It's just like, And it's like Fred Olen Ray says on the commentary of the DVD that a distributor cut this shit all up and stuff, and I'm not sure I believe that. I mean, if a distributor butchered his movie, like, why not kind of recut it back to how you wanted it when you release your DVD on your own label, Retro Media? So that's kind of why I don't necessarily buy his claim that, the goofy cut, just out of nowhere, random cutting in of this lion animatronic person wearing this lion face is just randomly cut in there, and towards the beginning of stuff just like roaring on the, desert mountainside or whatever. So whatever. This movie is absolutely absurd, and it's, oh my god, it's one of these movies that's like good and, I'd say it's bad in a good way, definitely. And part of me, I gotta admit, the more I talk about it, the more I'm kind of curious about the Blu-ray. Obviously, the gore footage, as is featured on this DVD, is like lesser quality from VHS or whatever, and the same is going to be the case for the Blu-ray. But, I guess I'm kind of, more I talk about it, the more I'm kind of curious about the majority of the movie's appearance on Blu-ray or whatever. But so that's my review of Scalps. It's mostly unwatchable in a lot of ways. I mean, the seeing the stuff with the characters interact and stuff is funny, and the music's effective, and so as much as I praise like kind of the kills and the effect it has on you, I'm only going to be able to give this movie 1 star out of 4 stars because it is very hard to get through, even at its kind of sparse running time of like 80 minutes or so. But it is effective as a kind of an exploitation, just what the fuck kind of, just goofy movie. Like I say, I would regard it as one of the so bad it's good kind of movies. Maybe not that good, but it's definitely not, in my opinion, a movie that's so bad it's just bad, like unwatchable. The badness has its advantages and its quirks and stuff. And yeah, so there you go. That's my review of Scalps. I think that's kind of what the voice says in the trailer of this movie or something like that. But basically, don't go out into the desert and desecrate Indian burial grounds, because this very well could happen to you, where you just get possessed by just this, you know, animatronic kind of possessed Indian face with its glowing eyes or whatever. Oh, that's another scene that's really funny. They dug up this whatever little clay bowl or whatever, and they're in the tent looking at it, and it's just like, this blood came from nowhere. It just fills up with blood, and it's just like, well, the grounds, you know, the grounds. What's the guy say? The other guy, goofy guy, is like, the grounds. There's a lot of moisture in the ground. It's just like, yeah, but, and then there's just like, oh, whatever. So, thank you very much. Oh, in closing, I do want to mention something that to show you how much of an effect this movie had on me. I think it was just mere weeks. I think I saw it in December when I was 14. And I think just mere weeks after seeing it, a buddy of mine at the time and I, you know, we'd make short videos and horror movies, short horror videos and horror stuff like that, just horror shorts and stuff back in the day on a Fisher-Price PXL 2000 black and white video camera. And I think this was just, like I say, just days or weeks after having seen The Slayer and Scalps. Scalps had such a, I don't know, being 14, I just loved all the, even though it was only one decapitation in the movie, we kind of see it twice. And we took it upon myself I was inspired by Scalps to actually make make my own short with the help of my buddy. This really, you know, quick short that we filmed in December, which I'll end the review with. It's basically, I don't know if it's like 3 or 4 minutes, and there's like 3 decapitations in it. It's really cool, but you can definitely see, if you've seen Scalps, you can definitely see how much Scalps was an inspiration for this short I'm going to close out this review with. So thank you very much for watching my review of Scalps, and hope you enjoy my little, me and my buddies' quick Scalps inspired horror short from when we were both 14 and shot on a cold December night, and enjoy.
Hey, get away from me. Stop it. No! Hey, get away from him. No! No! Ah! It's a nice night for a walk. God, it's sort of cold and stuff, but oh yeah, I like it. What was that? Oh, jeez. Shit, what a freak. Oh, shit. Oh, Jesus. That was something else. God, that was freaky.